Hello and welcome. This is Palan, and you are listening to Stuck in the Middle, a podcast that looks at the psychology of uncertainty, the quiet strength of ambivalence, and the choices that shape who we are. If you are navigating life's uncertainties, those moments of doubt, change, or growth, then you are in the right place. Because sometimes life isn't black or white, it's lived in shades of gray. We believe that in the context of ideas, we find clarity and the perspectives to move forward. Join us in this ongoing, meaningful conversation. Subscribe now and tap the bell icon. Selamat datang Dr. Maszlee. Kami berbesar hati menerima kehadiran Doktor hari ini untuk berbincang tentang buku terbaru Doktor. So it's our utmost pleasure to welcome Dr. Maszlee Malik to talk about his new book, which is intriguing. It talks about reclaiming education's soul. There's so much opinion about where education should be headed to, but I think it's interesting. Dr. Maszlee Malik, a former Minister of Education Malaysia, talks about AI, tradition, and the Madani framework for a multipolar world. Of course, he brings in a lot of philosophers, Paulo Freire, Ken Robinson, Heidelberg, so many people he brings in, but it's a practical work. So the question today is, education today is more efficient, structured, measurable, but are we developing ethical citizens? In a world shaped by AI, rankings, competitiveness, are we actually educating for life or are we optimizing for performance? Today, I explore this with Dr. Maszlee Malik from his latest book, What Does It Mean to Reclaim Education's Soul? There's a growing sense that something is not quite right in education. You look at the proliferation of international schools, private schools here today in Malaysia, as much as elsewhere. We are more structured, more efficient, more measured than any time before. Yet something feels missing. And I'd like to bring something here that the current Prime Minister, PMX, as well as Dr. Maszlee talk about what Lewis said, education without a soul. Universities are very good at producing graduates, but they're not really what we look for conscious, good human beings. Paulo Freire is another concept that Paulo Freire, the great educator from South America, I've always been intrigued by him, and he talked about conscientization. And Dr. Maszlee talked so much about that in his book in practical terms. Are we creating students who can think and who can question? And I think that's very important, critical reasoning. Also, Ken Robinson remarked that education is all about creativity. Let's harness it, let's not standardize it. So in this system, many of our systems are dominated by testing, structure, and compliance. So perhaps the real question that I would have for Dr. Maszlee is not what students know when they leave the system, but who they have become. So, Dr. Maszlee, my first question to you, former Minister of Education, still member of the ruling party, I believe with some degree of influence over the state of the education policy. What is the state of education today? Are we becoming too focused on outcomes rather than developing people? Considering that you draw on ideas like Heidegger's Gestalt, economic ability, rather than ethical citizenship, or Freire's banking model. Teachers come and just dump the knowledge and students just take it in. So what's your question on the state of education today, Dr. Maszlee?
Okay, it depends. Tan Sri, first and foremost, thank you very much for inviting me to your talk show. And I'm stuck with you in the middle at the moment. Okay, Tan Sri, coming back to your question, it depends where coming from and from which angle you're looking at education and from which economy class you're from. I mean, for certain people who are less fortunate, the marginalized people, when they're looking at the current education system, they always feel that something is missing for them.
Sure.
Yeah. The digital gap, you're talking about the disparity between schools, for example, in Bukit Damansara and schools in Pulau Bumbum, or maybe in
Sempang
Teluk. Yeah, maybe in Estate Ulu Remis, Sempang Renggang.
Right.
So they always feel that, oh, look at those privileged people and look at our condition. They feel that something is not served them just. And when you ask people from TTDI, Bukit Damansara, and the like, they feel that the current system does not serve them justice too. Why? Because it's a bit outdated, less quality in compare. For example, the international schools, or maybe Chinese private schools and other well-privileged schools. When you ask to people with a more conservative and religious background, they said, oh, there's not much religiosity in our national schools. So, but at the end of the day, what I will like to conclude is, education is very colorful. If you try to impose uniformity,
so it's diversity.
Diversity is one thing, but what I'm trying to say is you cannot impose uniformity on education.
Got it.
At the end of the day, you must have your own principles. What do you want from education? You must have the purpose of education, or what I mentioned here a lot, the word telos. It's very Aristotelian in his in his book, talking about the purpose, the telos.
Of course.
So this telos, or the purpose of education, that we always miss when we talk about education. If you ask me my personal point of view about the state of education in Malaysia, I would say that there's a lot of rooms of improvement, but this improvement cannot be done by the government alone. We need to do it together. We need to do it collectively, and with open-hearted, open-minded, and the willingness to admit the mistakes we have done, to admit the shortcomings that we are living with, and the needs and the necessity to change things from what it is and what it was.
So primarily what you're saying is it has to be customized to needs, if I hear you right. So there might be parents who are religious who want a little more of a religious-based education. There are parents who would want a little more of an economic-based education. But like what you say in your book, like what happened in Finland or Uruguay or Estonia, you want some kind of a cross-curricular. And the cross-curricular is you do want to build in some of the human values into each of those subjects, even though the approach might be different. Would that be correct, sir?
Yeah.
Right. So you have been a former Minister of Education, and you are a member of the ruling party today. And so I believe that you have some degree of influence over the education
I
policy.
hope so.
Right. Yeah. And this morning, your party Vice President Nurul Izzah had a very strong comment in the Star. Obviously, she said, when the system is the problem. When the system is the problem. Of course, she was referring to something else. She was referring to, I think, Lutfi Siddiqui, who was a former advisor to Muhammad Yunus of Bangladesh about Bangladeshi recruitment. But the key that she said is when the system is the problem, we got to look at the system. So today we see a proliferation of schools, private schools, international schools, Arabic schools, vernacular schools are still around, Chinese schools, Tamil schools. So if you would pinpoint, let's say, 3 things that's the problem in the education system today, not just negative criticism, but a positive way forward, what would that be, Doc?
I mean, you want to ask me about the 3 pounds that you went to Nuriza, Bangladesh, and coming back. What a long journey. Okay.
No. It was just an intriguing thing this morning because
Yeah.
that's a very good statement when the system is the
Yeah,
problem.
true.
And being someone from entrepreneurial life as well as being someone from the world of education, I always say when the system is a problem, fix it.
Yeah. System is one thing, but those within the system, those who implement the system, those who make the system work is another issue. Number one, you must have a clear guideline and vision on where you want to lead the country to.
Sure.
So this is why I still remember when Dato Sri Ibrahim first became the Prime Minister, and then we get Rafizi became the Minister of Economic Affairs, and we get Fadlina, who was an activist and a lawyer, became the Minister of Education. I said, wow, this is going to be a whole new world
Sure.
a whole new dream, a whole new, let me say, expectation for Malaysia, for Malaysians as a whole. But after 3 years, I hope it's only myself, the hope that we had then, the euphoria that we used to live 3 years ago never came into the picture. Maybe,
What would the reason be?
yeah. Number one, you must have a clear vision
Okay.
of what we wanted our education to be.
Okay. Number two.
At the moment, we're not clear where we are going to take the country to
Sure. What
through
would the
education.
other two things be, Doc?
Number two, we must have a clear, let us say, framework on how every single, let us say, agents or every single individual, every single component in the community can work with each other collectively in achieving that vision that been laid down by the government, by the Prime Minister, by the Minister of Education.
Everybody's in alignment.
Yeah, so everyone knows that, okay, in order to achieve, in order to reach that destination, we have our role, we have our responsibility that we can play, that we can contribute. Doesn't matter how small it is, but we are clear about it. And number three, I think the most important part when we are dealing with education is the mechanism
Sure.
that allows not only vision to be achieved, but on how that vision to be achieved by everyone.
Thank you. So basically, you said one is vision, and now number two is everyone is in alignment, and number three is mechanism. But Doc, can I draw you back because I know it's very difficult to be in government and do everything that your stakeholders want. It's not something that's very easy. It's very tough. It's easy to criticize, but it's very difficult to implement because everybody offers you suggestions. So I don't fancy the. I don't think that the ministers of education around the world have an easy job. It's very difficult, just like the ministers of health, because there's always two very controversial subjects to our country. But we had an amazing education blueprint, 2015 to 2025, I think. There was a Malaysian education blueprint, and then there was a Malaysian higher education blueprint, and then subsequently, now 2025 to 2035, there was a Malaysian education blueprint. I think the first blueprint, educational blueprint, was talking about system building. And the second one was talking about the higher education blueprint, was talking about global competitiveness and employability. And now I think we're talking about human centered values, adaptability, everything that you talk about in this book. But my biggest question is all these blueprints, we've had it. And I think one of the biggest amazing developments we've had in the country was former Prime Minister Dato Sri Najib's Act 555, bringing in private sector because it resolved the problem of access. And I think people could go and do whatever you want and things like that. But my question is, are these education blueprints, are they easy to implement? Are they easy to translate? Or they just basically the language changes? Because whatever you talk to me, three things. You talked about vision. The blueprint is the vision. You talked about alignment. It is to get everybody in alignment, the teachers, the schools, everybody. And the third, you talk about the mechanism. The mechanism is the budget being allocated in order to achieve the desires of the blueprint. So
Do you think so?
I think so. That was a goal. That's a goal, right? Whether it happened or not, I don't know. But maybe
Okay, Tan Sri Palan, let me
okay,
ask you.
maybe before you ask me, Doc, let me ask you a blunt question.
Okay, please do.
Very blunt question, but you are used to
Yeah.
being asked blunt
Yeah.
questions because in Parliament,
Yeah.
people ask you far more stressful questions. Yeah.
I think outside the parliament by the media is worse.
But my question to you is, have you read the education blueprint after becoming the Minister of Education?
Which one?
The first two.
The first. When
Or
I-
was it only you just read the executive summary or you got a briefing from your officers?
I was lucky then. I was in the line of education. I was a lecturer.
You were, yeah, of course, you are a academic.
And I think most of my friends and my siblings, they are teachers. And I got involved with few NGOs who are concerned about education, especially special needs education or education for the special needs children. So I was fully aware about all this blueprint by looking from the segments that I'm focusing in.
Yeah, okay.
Special needs, higher education, talking about teachers training and whatnot. And when I was in the UK from 2007 to 2010, I was 2011, I was lucky enough to be part of the school governors, school governance. And you know, the system is quite different back there compared to Malaysia. But yeah, I got involved with the primary schools, with the localities and with the councils. But anyway, when I came to my office in May 2018, I spent, let me say, the first months understanding the blueprint.
Okay.
So this is where, when Tan Sri Palan, you said that, oh, we had the vision that I mentioned earlier, we had that alignment that I mentioned earlier, and we had that frame.
There was a goal. I
Yeah,
mentioned there's
yeah,
a goal.
yeah.
I don't know whether it was there or
Yeah.
not.
I'm not sure whether that vision is being understood or being shared by the people and being clearly conveyed to everyone. I don't think everyone has the feeling of ownership on that blueprint. People always thought that, okay, that blueprint belongs to the government, to the Minister of Education, and worse, to the minister. You know, they never thought, okay, it's ours. Why? Because we are part of it, because we built it together, because it is for us, for our children, and for our future generation. And it, not even a single, right, or worse, not even a single teacher. When I was a minister, I asked them about the blueprint. Not even a single teacher feel that, okay, we own this. We are part of this. No. And unfortunately, the current one that we have, that been launched a couple of months ago,
Yeah.
the same feeling is there.
So how do you make it different?
You need to engage people. You need to embrace the whole country to come out with a change. We missed that opportunity. The post-COVID, COVID was, blessed in disguise. Yes, it was terrible. It was catastrophic. But again, it gave us the opportunity to push the reset button for education. That's why I produced my book, CPR from Malaysian Education, which was a translated version of my proposal to the government then, under Tan Sri Mahyudin and the Minister of Education under Raziji Din. I gave them, and I gifted to all party leaders the proposal on how we should start, a fresh start after the COVID. You know, people are talking about, people are still debating. And when I went to schools, I met with the teachers. Now they have a lot of hair white situation, and they have a huge headache talking about the upcoming 6 years old children coming to school next year. Okay, I told them, should it has been implemented in 2022 or maybe 2023, people wouldn't have much hustle like they're having
But I
today.
just wanted to go back to what YB Syed Sadiq mentioned in Parliament. And I think some of his comments were very, very logical. Are we ready to implement that? It just came all of a sudden. And then, of course, we had a flip-flop.
Yeah. Like I told you, if we started it or if we announce it just after the COVID, just after the lockdown, everyone would be happy. Number one. And number two, if we have prior consulted the people, if we have brought it to the public to debate it, it wouldn't be in such a situation. Now, the way we are behaving, the way we are acting, we still the same regime knows best. Sorry, not regime. The government knows best. Whenever people are criticizing, whenever people are giving their opinion, say, no, don't worry, we're well prepared. We have done this, we have did this, we have done that, and give trust on us.
So your question then is there wasn't enough consultation.
There wasn't enough consultation.
So as
there
a
wasn't
disclaimer,
enough,
I must say that I was a member of the Higher Education Blueprint headed by Dato Asma.
Yeah.
And I thought we had a couple of consultative meetings. But can I just move on? I didn't mean to underestimate your reading capabilities, so forgive me for that. But when government changed in 2018, there was a lot of euphoria in the country. I do know that some of my colleagues were glued to the television until 5 a.m. in the morning. And the next day they were all in front of the Istana and all of that stuff. But there was one thing that, a couple of months later, I went to some of the Malaysian Indian parliamentarians and I said, look, have you read the Malaysian Indian Blueprint, which was, I think, developed by a team led by a very professional, esteemed Professor K.S. Nathan. And most of them said no. The initiative was by the Malaysian Indian Congress and therefore we will not read it. And I felt very disappointed. So do we discard anything that comes from the previous government that's good, Doc?
I think this is not only the problem with Malaysians.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. It's very unfortunate, especially when you got mixed up between education and politics. And it's not things that happen only in 2018. Even when you have a transition between leaders in the same in the same
2020
regime
and 2022.
Not only that, even previously and that's always the case, not only with the politicians, but also to, unfortunately, those who are implementing the things.
So, but
those in the office.
I know you write in your book. You write in your book about Finland, Uruguay, Estonia, and you write about on two reasons. One, you say AI, technology is coming into the classroom. The world is completely being swamped by technology. But countries like Finland, Uruguay, Estonia have had a more comprehensive policy, and they've been able to kind of amalgamate this into a singular vision. What can we learn from these countries, Doc?
What can we learn is whatever change we want to make, it must not based on the vendor's proposal. It must be based on the vision that we lay down, which was the result of the consultations and extensive, let us say, engagement with the community. Unfortunately,
it's what you're saying is we shouldn't be product specific or vendor specific.
Precisely.
We should choose what we think is probably right. Well, thank you.
And that was part of the, let we say, non-successful attempt of the previous blueprint.
Right,
You know,
right,
coming
right.
back to your question,
Yeah, sure.
Tan Sri, you're talking about blueprint. Has there been any discussion, a public debate on the evaluation of the previous blueprints?
Yeah. So, can I ask you this question, Doc? I'm
No,
sure
I'm asking you, Tan Sri.
no,
Okay.
I think I must
Even-
admit,
well,
not much,
no, you're-
other than in podcasts and things
Precisely.
like that. Yeah.
Even the report of the previous blueprint was not, not only not debated, not exposed, and not open to the public. I mean, everyone has their own evaluation on the previous blueprint, but
Sure.
it was never been debated. It was never been shared. It was never been open to the public.
I would just say it
sorry,
was
Tan Sri.
shared, but not adequately. Or maybe just shared briefly. Yeah.
No, the question is there any evaluation on the previous blueprint?
No. Yeah, probably you're right.
Okay, okay, that's number one. Because, I mean, a lot of educationists, they came to me and asked me, he said, hey, what happened to the previous blueprint? And now we have a new blueprint. I mean, so I told them, no, don't ask me. I have nothing to do with education anymore. I just write books.
Hey, no. You are a politician and you are a member of the
Okay.
ruling party.
A question
And
to you,
therefore,
because
I think-
you're part of Tan Sri Hasma's committee. See, you said that you have done the engagement. You have done enough engagement.
I think what happened is they had subcommittees for each sector. They were
Precisely.
focusing, and the subcommittees presented to a group of advisors drawn from different sectors again, and we offered our advice.
Okay.
And
so,
of course, then the
was
team-
there any open discussion and debates about the previous higher education blueprint?
Not that I know of. Not that I know of.
So, we are starting with the new, or we have started with the new
I'm sure
blueprint.
they would
So,
have evaluated it internally, but maybe not in any data.
that's a problem with us. Our system in such a mess because we deal with things behind the door internally and we try to impose it to the people. And we try to tell people, we know best. You just follow.
But Doc,
Even
both you and I are also responsible. I'm in academia. I didn't bring this up. You are in the ruling party and you didn't bring it up.
we brought it up.
Did you?
Yes.
Okay. And what happened, Prof?
I don't know what happened. What
Because-
happened has happened.
Because academics like you and me, we are full of ideas, brimming with ideas.
But my hands are tied up being a politician at the same time.
Right,
So
right,
I cannot bring a lot of things, to the public.
Because they say there's many a slip between the cup and the lip. So whatever our intent is, we can't implement it many times. But what can we do to minimize this? How can we make it lived behavior out there? So now there is an education blueprint, and there's this age 5, age 6, year 1, year 2, whatever. How do we actually go in and communicate to people?
So this is a problem. When we deal with education in Malaysia, the public keep dealing with piecemeals. When we try to implement the year 6 going to 6 years old going to year 1, all the lands, all the discussion focusing on that per se, without looking at the bigger picture. Nobody talks about the blueprint as a whole. People are focusing on a tiny thing. When we just the recent incident, we feel very sorry and very sad of that. The water drafting incident that caused the life of 2 IPG students.
Very sad,
And some of the media came to me. I only realized that their messages after a week, and we're sorry, the Star. But I told the reporter, should the curriculum that we proposed earlier, 6 years ago, or maybe 8 years ago, about water safety and water survival has been implemented, we wouldn't deal with these kind of things anymore. But the media mocked that idea, the idea of making swimming as a compulsory.
Exactly.
They mocked the idea, they mocked a lot of things. And when we brought the idea of revamping the whole system of education, there was a committee led by Professor Ibrahim Bajunaid and the late Professor Madeline Burma and their team. I mean, they came up with a new proposal called New Education Model, which was very, I would say, radical in nature.
Because in Australia, swimming is compulsory.
Yeah, swimming was only tiny part of it, but more than that, it's going to change the whole structure of our education. But nobody pays attention to that. People like to talk about small petty things.
Or even talk about school bullying and mental well-being, because one of the things that I was very interested in your book was how do we create the values? Because that's so very important. I just wanted to talk about three things here, and then I'll let you respond. One is Sir Ken Robinson, whom I followed for a long time. He said, no system can be better than the teachers. And the role of the teacher was to facilitate learning, period. That's it. And they have to awaken creativity and not standardize it. And one of the things that he said is, look, testing has its place. Standardized testing has its place. But question number one, you talk about PISA, PISA, and you talk about maybe it's not fair enough for countries like Malaysia. But my question is, Singapore does well. So the question is, are we actually saying, does doing well in PISA mean a system is successful, or simply successful at what PISA measures? So first is creativity. Second is basically PISA. And third is the human values, which can eliminate things like school bullying. What are your comments, Doctor?
At the moment, I'm working on finalizing the draft of my upcoming book, which is the following saga of this one, where I explain in depth about the safe school. Yeah, it's not only to be safe inside the classroom, inside the school, but also in the virtual world, in the digital world. Sometimes you might be safe in the physical world, but in virtual world, you're not safe. And prior unto that is the mental health issue. So, but I'm dealing with that in my upcoming book. And it relates closely with the idea of virtue. Again, coming back to what is education for? The telos, the purpose of education. Aristotle talked about eudaimonia in his Nicomachean ethics.
Talk about it.
I talk about it.
And the Aristotelian logic.
Aristotelian logic, and I mean, looking at the Islamic idea of happiness, sa'ada, that always being part of the major values that I promoted when I was a minister then. But more than that is what type of student you wanted to produce. Yes, PISA helped us a lot. The report from the World Bank helped us more. The report by OECD, UNDP helped us to improve ourselves. So this is where, whenever this PISA result, the report by World Bank, report by OECD, is not for us to compete with others, but rather to make a contemplation of where we are and what we should do, where we should go. So sometimes, we have this very deep Eastern mentality of competition.
Correct.
Yeah. It's not all bad. But sometimes it goes back to the idea of tyranny of meritocracy, tyranny of grading people. If we have a clear vision on where we want to go with our education, how our kids would be constructed, what is the end product of those generation that we want to produce, I think we don't really mind about the petty things that we're talking about.
Sure.
So this is where, in my upcoming book, I'm proposing the alternative for this grading system by adding the idea of having a laporan, kad pelaporan murid, which is very, say, encompassing, holistic in nature, using AI, big data, and also machine learning, we're talking about capstone. That capstone is rather
We
important.
can't run away from all of those technological issues.
And where the national test and examination would be the integrated part of them. Yeah.
So what you're really summarizing, you say, is look, if we had very value-based education, then things like school bullying should go down. So in other words, what you're saying is it's not this or that, but it's values and quality teaching.
But again, Tan Sri, you must know that education is not the sole responsibility of the teachers within the classroom. It should start at home,
Parents,
parents,
thank you.
on your screen,
Thank
yeah,
you.
the media, and everyone. Even the advertisement on the streets, the PBT, the state government, and everyone. This is where, when I say we should have the alignment, what I mean by alignment is the all-encompassing
Sure.
inclusivity
Yeah.
of education vision, how to be achieved, should be at the back head of everyone.
Sure, I totally agree with you because my daughter, she studies psychology and she puts on a screen time here for me. And she says, don't exceed your screen time.
Yeah.
And so when I went to AI, ChatGPT, and said, look, my daughter says I shouldn't spend more than 30 minutes. But my WhatsApp is killing me. Everybody wants to decide on WhatsApp decision making today. What do I do? I thought I had valuable feedback, both from my daughter and ChatGPT. They said 9 to 9:30, 12:30 to 1, 4:30 to 5, that's it.
Tan Sri, you're lucky, and we are the luckiest one because we are in the economic class who our daughter can monitor themselves, can control themselves, can
Correct.
educate themselves.
Correct.
But just imagine those in, Ulu Remis, Sempang Renggam, Kampung Chokro,
very sad.
their children, do they have that self-censorship? Do they have that self-awareness? My worry is about those children.
True.
Our children, don't worry, they're well taken care of.
They are well. I've got two more critical concepts which you talk about in your book. And then the third one. One is you talk a lot about inequality. And that's one of the biggest challenges. I think there's this guy called Professor Vincent Chua, if I remember him, at National University of Singapore, who says that privileged backgrounds give you unequal access.
Precisely.
So how does a child from an estate in a Tamil school or from a kampong in Ulu Remis school compete with the guy from Victoria Institution in Kuala Lumpur?
Precisely. Tan Sri, just imagine.
What can you as an administrator or a policymaker do?
Okay. A lot of things, but let me start with something. When I promoted this book on my Facebook, amongst the comments, there's one guy saying that we should start with equal entrance to the IPTA, and equal, and the recognition of certain exam, which only being, without.
You can do that, but
Yeah. No. But let me finish my argument
Sure.
first. They said, let's start with that. I see. Okay, why don't we start? I replied to his comment. Why don't we start with giving the equal treatment that you have at SMPC in Taman Tun Dr. Ismail
Sure.
to the people in Estate Ladang Taman Tun Dr. Ismail in Layang-Layang, for example. Let's start with that. Rather than talking about, you want the equal access for everything, you started complaining about, you have 10 A's or not. Your children are very entitled. Your children are very privileged. My children very privileged, but not those children.
True.
In Sarike, those children in Pulau Bumbum, in
They are not.
Mentalun.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, it's going to be an endless discussion about this. You're talking about disparity, about inequality.
But would you agree with me if I said it's a continuous effort by policymakers to address this issue of unequal access?
But unfortunately, we're still using the conventional an old way in dealing with it. It's always the politicians. It's always, politicians will always want to win votes.
Sure.
I mean, openly I would say that because I'm one of them. But back on my mind, I'm still an educationist.
I know.
Okay, so how can we overcome that, Tan Sri? By using AI, by using big data.
Yeah, but they
This is
don't
where-
even. But Doc, the kid out there in Sarike doesn't even have equal access to internet.
Precisely. Put the blame on, without mentioning
Put the blame
the name
on-
of, that cost me my position. Okay, anyway, but yes, I addressed that here. I said that digital gap should be addressed, should be the main
But
concern.
people like Estonia, they found
Oh,
Skype.
the-
People like Uruguay, people like Finland, which you talk in your book, they have succeeded. So
Yep,
what
yep.
can we draw lessons? So can you go on a charama or a workshop around the country, talk about nothing but just the success stories of these
Okay.
countries,
Tan Sri.
which is what Singapore did.
That's right,
And
that's right.
people hate us talking about Singapore, but what I'm saying is all that they did was to go and get the best practices stuff.
Yeah, we should learn from everyone, from Singapore, from Japan, from Finland, from everywhere. But at the end of the day, the needs of those schools, the needs of those children is different from theirs. So there is no one
Sure.
straight jacket,
Sure.
one straight jacket to be imposed to solve this issue. I mean, I don't believe in the over centralization of education like what we're having now.
Yeah.
Because every schools, every community has different needs, has different, let we say, not only needs, they have different, what do you say?
Priorities.
Priorities. Yeah. So this is where I think the decentralization is very important. But again, it couldn't be done solely by the schools. It should be supported by different government agencies, by different ministries. For example, the other day when I was lucky, whenever there's incidents happening in rural schools, people always tag my name there.
Sure.
Even after 8 years, I've left the ministry, 6 years maybe, I left the ministry. For example, those children in Sarawak, those children in Gua Musang, those children in Sabah, and then to take them to the schools from their house, they need to take sampan, they need to take motorbike on the Tanah Merah or whatever, slopes, this and that. So they always tag me there and look at the predicament faced by the teachers. I told them, the roads, the boats, and all this thing is not the responsibility of Ministry of Education.
Sure.
It's the responsibility of a government as a whole. This is where I think when you deal with the issue of education, it should be dealt in a more holistic way. It's a responsibility of everyone. Yeah. So this is where, when you're looking at the needs of those children, for example, in Sarike, or in Baram, or in, what's the name of the constituent that I went to campaign for 2 months ago that we won, the only seat that we won in Sabah. Apa ni namanya? Jamawi's place. Anyway, Pangi.
Right.
I mean, we went to Pangi, we have to take a train to reach Pangi. I mean, the needs of the children there, the priorities of the children and the families and the communities is different. But we should give emphasis on that.
Sure. I totally agree. Life is all about uneven access.
And,
but we
and how
have
do
to
we know?
minimize.
Tansi, how do we know their needs and priority? Thanks to AI.
Thank you.
Thanks to machine learning. Thanks to big
thank
data.
you, yeah.
So by looking at the needs and priorities of each single individual
We can help,
of student, we can treat that.
We minimize the sharp angularities of
Precisely.
life. Doc, I have one more
And
question.
we cannot overgeneralize. Sometimes when we talk about education, we overgeneralize everything.
Thank
you know, we always thought that, the needs of children in Puchong, where we are in now, is the same as the children in Kubang Menerong, for example, in Kedah. But no, it's not. How do we know the needs of the children? Again, AI and machine learning and the system itself.
So, Doc, you have talked a lot about AI. You have talked about the Madani framework, the pillars of Madani. You've talked about tradition, multipolar world. But I've got a final political question.
Okay, please do.
Many years ago, when I was a student, I used to read in the Star newspaper the day when newspapers were easily available. Today, I can't even get a Star newspaper hard copy. My driver has to go around looking for one. Everybody reads it on the phone,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I still use hard copy. There was this big case that went on, the Merdeka University. I think, if I remember right, I think the Chinese educationists, or I'm not sure whether it was the political party, they wanted to form the Merdeka party and they took it to the federal court. And if I remember, it was Tun Sufyan or the respected Sultan Nazrin Shah's father, Sultan Azlan Shah, eminent juries, they were hearing the case about Merdeka University, whether they should be allowed or not. And the government said, look, we can't allow private universities. Then things, of course, died down, it went away. And then, of course, the Act 555 came, and people can form private universities as long as you follow the regulation, which I'm sure you're aware. And it's good. The world has progressed. But UEC still seems to be a sore point. Your political party said that they will support it once they come to power, but they have some questions. Some of your partners want it. Now, I do not know the right or wrong of it, but if it's a people's choice, why not give it to them?
You're talking about UEC?
Yeah.
Why don't we talk about IGCSE as well?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Why
Sure.
don't we talk about other examinations
Sure.
as well? I think
IGCSE is allowed, right?
IGCSE is the product of Malaysian Chinese education in Malaysia.
Right.
It was well recognized in other countries.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. But unfortunately, it was not recognized in Malaysia, except at the moment the government said it must come together with SPM of Bahasa Malaysia
Sure.
and Sejarah. Let's look at this, Tan Sri. This is a problem when we're talking about the state of education in Malaysia. Everybody is looking at education based on their needs,
Sure.
based on their interests,
Sure.
whether it is communal, whether it is ethnic-based interest or geographical-based interest,
Of course. I don't
or
deny.
state-based
Yeah.
interest.
Of course.
In order to deal with that, we need to look at education and higher education per se in a more holistic way.
Sure.
Yeah. Examination is only part of it. It's part of how you evaluate children, how you recognize children to enter certain higher learning institutions. If that is the case, I think we in the era of AI, in the era of post-normal, as been coined by
Sure.
our beloved friend Professor Sardar, we need to upgrade ourselves from looking at education per se from this very narrow perspective.
Sure.
But again, reform should not be taken only by the ministries, but also by the operators. I did mention here about how the future of higher education will be the UNO Europa system. Yeah, where the collaboration of 11 now, they reach more than 11 universities from all European countries working together on how their children can move from one campus to another, can take different courses from one university to another. This is the future of higher education, the Uberization of higher learning institution. There will be a time where people, you find a student might not be attached to one single university.
Yeah, true. I totally agree with that.
Let me finish.
Sure.
So this was partly my vision when I told the universities then in 2018 that I want a more substantive collaboration between universities, be them private or public, they should collaborate together. I want students, for example, from UM can spend a semester in UOC.
Of course.
I want students from Sarawak who's studying at UUM can spend 1 year in UNIMAS.
Sure.
Or maybe in University Technology Sarawak. Nowadays,
Sure.
education in Sarawak is something totally different
very,
from what
very
it was then.
far-reaching vision.
So, and the same, people have this 2+2, 2+1, student exchange programs abroad here, but we never had this kind of collaboration between our universities. So this is where my very radical idea of education, of these universities, of higher learning institutions, including TVET institutions, it cannot work in silos anymore.
Sure, I agree, Doc. But just quickly interrupt. Emotions are rising on the political level. Why can't the government recognize UEC? Are there concerns? Because today, with so much of openness, because I think government has been so magnanimous with so many things in education, financing.
Yeah.
PTPTN is not something sustainable, Doc. You know, you were minister there. But still the government is committed firmly to it. So why not just open it, reduce the tensions, unless there is something serious?
I don't know, you should ask Zamri. about
Is
this
higher
question.
education.
Yeah, I'm no longer there, but
No,
from my
I'm
point,
asking,
from my
I know
point of view,
he's a good friend, but just asking your opinion
Yeah.
as a member of the ruling party.
my point of view, we cannot treat higher education, or we cannot treat education in a piecemeal manner.
Sure, got it.
Yeah.
Like, okay. One more thing, Doc.
And talking about TVET,
TVET,
sir,
Yeah.
now we have a huge programs
Yeah, of course.
on TVET, but why not TVET being led by the higher education ministry along with the industry? The ministry only works as a facilitator.
The higher education ministry, as far as I know, is so huge.
I know.
If you bring Tibet, and I think they'll be overwhelmed.
No, it will be overwhelmed if we think with the conventional and old way of thinking. We thought that government will control everything, the civil servants, will control everything. But if we thought that TVET should be led by the industry,
Yeah.
instead of the bureaucrats,
Yeah.
instead of the government,
Yeah.
I think that's going to change the rule of the game.
You know, Doc, I was here and I was talking to Saravan and the former HR minister about vernacular schools. And I had to give him a disclaimer saying that I never went to a Tamil school, but then after engaging with a lot of Tamil parents, I understand their challenges in going to a Tamil school, because they were referring to something very similar in the Tirukural, what you referred to in your book, which was Syed Alatta's concept of Babelism. Are we producing a society rich in information but poor in meaning?
Yeah.
So they strongly believe that we needed the roots to the culture, tradition. And I could relate to that. But I also think the last comment that I'd like to have from Dr. Maszlee is, being a rebel in education, how much would you agree with Ivan Illich's deschooling society? Because he says schools are the problem. Because we don't pay enough attention to teachers. And in the education blueprint, one of the goals was that we need to actually upgrade the role of the teacher, the profession of teaching. Because when I was actually a young student out in Malacca, one of the key goals was, my teachers were such role models.
Yeah.
They wanted to be teachers because that was their passion of life. But now people become teachers because they couldn't get another job. So what have we done to improve the quality of teaching and do things to disprove Ivan Illich?
I'm not sure what we are doing at the moment and what the government have done because I have left my office since 6 years ago. But at least I can share what
Don't
we
worry.
tried to do.
Don't worry. I understand that. And I will tell Zamri you didn't want to answer the question.
I think we're talking about schools. It's Fadlina's.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, but we have done. I think there's one thing that Professor Ibrahim Bajunet brought to us: the scholarly teacher. The idea of having teachers beyond being facilitators, they should become scholars. I mean, teachers should not only teach, just like the banking process, banking concept. I mean, they are more than that. They are the one that share the vision of the country. They are the one that grow together with the children and the one that instill all these telos, all this virtue within the children, provided they're not being bought by a lot of unnecessary clerical jobs, number one, and they have an adequate training hours for them, and they are treating their profession as a professional job, and the way people look at them, they are the professionals.
Certainly. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And I do like one of the things in your book. You talk a lot about telos. You talk a lot about ethical citizenship.
Yeah.
And at the University of Cyberjaya, our Vice Chancellor, Professor David Whitford, always says, if value-based education, and I think he's written so much about value-based education, and if education is truly about shaping lives, not just careers, then reclaiming the soul may be the most important work of our
Do you
time.
still have time?
Sure.
I want to give some good comments on UOC.
Sure.
Because thanks to you, you employed me for a year there.
Sure.
So a couple of days ago, a couple of days ago, I bumped into my former students.
Okay.
Graduated from psychology department from UOC, and few months ago I met their colleagues earlier, and I was surprised to learn that these graduates of your university, they were my students anyway, has embraced this global citizenship mindset in their head. I still remember I was teaching social psychology where I normally brought with me the popular culture. I mean, sorry, Tan Sri. Instead of teaching them psychology per se, talking about Freud, talking about all those boring stuff, I brought popular culture and also popular literature for them to relate it to what they're studying and to relate it to the real life. So when I met them, they still remember, hey, sir, you still remember you taught us about the... Oh, did I?
That's good.
But what intrigued me is, like what I mentioned in chapter 9, talking about global citizenship, they have that in their mind.
Thank you.
And in their heart.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations, UOC.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We always believe it's when they leave the University of Cyberjaya, it's not just about what they know, but it's also very important who they have become. And I think that's so very important. So I really appreciate your time here, and terima kasih Doc kerana berkongsi dan merangkumkan pemikiran doktor dalam buku ini. I really would like to thank you for putting your thoughts into this, because I know as an author, it takes hours and hours of painstaking work. So once again, terima kasih. Thank you. Thank you.
Sama-sama. Terima kasih.